This video I'm going to be going over my top 5 melee for 8.3. This is actually in order from my favorite to my least favorite of the top 5 melee specs, which doesn't really make too much sense when you think about it, but kicking it off, Havoc Demon Hunter. There's lots of reason why. Spell Eruption, Stun, Double Jump, Backflips, Immunities, Purges, Haste Increase, Leech Increase, Rain from Above, you have a Glide, you can interrupt people, which grants you your own personal resource, you can see stealth people, your Blade Dance, which is just part of your normal rotation, lets you stun an ability on chance every about 8 seconds, which is increased with haste, I believe. So in demon form, that's just happening that much more. Again, half immunity. I say half immunity because that's pretty much what it is, sorry. 70% immunity with Cover of Darkness, where you just have a chance to be immune to pretty much any damage happening to you. You have Blur, which increases your chance to dodge by 50%, reduces the damage you take by 35%. I'd say that almost about covers it. If you're a Blood Elf, you have an extra Purge as well, which grants you Fury. Hopefully no furries, so that's nice. I have Leothorus, which is, again, just super good against casters. I've started taking this in Arena. Most casters don't even realize you put this on them, and it pretty much locks them out of an offensive spell school unless it's cleansed from them, which most of the time doesn't happen. We have the only mana burn in the game right now. However, it's been nerfed a little bit, but it's still usable if you stun them and then use it under them. Most of the time it'll get them. And again, just the only mana burn in a game on Demon Hunter, on top of all this. And if you really want to like just fuck around with melee, you can go with Glimpse, which every time you Vengeful Retreat, you'll gain Blur, which Blur reduces the damage you take and reduces the chance you'll be hit, / the chance you'll actually dodge stuff. On top of all that, a lot of healing. A lot of healing through Demonic and Soul Rending. So Soul Rending, Leech increased by 10%, gain an additional 10% in Demon form. And then there's 10% baseline in Demon form. And then whenever you use Demonic, after you use I-Beam, you go into Demon form. Then every time you get a Soul Shard, I think it's through like an artifact trait. Every time a Soul Shard spawns like that, it'll reduce the cooldown of your I-Beam by a little bit. And that procs a lot. And also, all of those Soul Shards that do spawn, that do reduce the cooldown on your I-Beam, also heal you for a certain amount. And when I talk about the haste that you get from Demon Hunter, it's through Furious Gaze, Demon form, and then the cooldown reduction is through Eyes of Rage. And then on top of that, if you really want, you can just Chaos Strike someone, burst them super heavily in Arena. And I have 2 of these traits, so Chaos Strike will just hit like 40,000, 50,000 sometimes. So really absurd damage. So in review, we have like every utility a class ever needs, really. We can fly in the air. We can pretty much be immune to spells when we go into Demon form. You can immune Destruction, Warlocks, Chaos Bolts, Greater Pyro, stuff like that if you time it right. If you don't immune it while you go into Metamorphosis, you can immune it with Darkness. Blur, again, reduces the damage of all those abilities by 35%, and on top of that, you have a lot of self-healing with a lot of soul fragments that spawn off the person. And just baseline haste, and you have a Purge. There's a lot of reasons. If you haven't already, play Demon Hunter. It's probably one of my favorite specs. Number 2 on the list is Fury Warrior. There's a similarity with like all of the classes on this list, and it's the fact that a lot of these classes just have really good self-healing. Just like to put that out, and they also just have really good damage. This is all just my opinion as well, so it could be wrong in some people's minds. Fury Warrior. What's the main thing to like about Fury Warrior, you're asking yourself? Well, there's this neat thing called Enrage. And whenever you get enraged, it increases your haste by 25%, which also then reduces the global cooldown of other abilities as well. Increases the damage you do by, currently mine's 60% damage increase for some reason, which just doesn't seem right. And that's with no cooldowns as well. So again, 25% haste along with just a damage increase. And then since I'm taking a certain talent, I don't know what it's called, War Paint, every time I am enraged, which is a lot of the time, I'll take 10% reduced damage. So again, our damage and haste is just crazy. On top of that, we do have self-healing through Bloodthirst. Bloodthirst restores 6% of your max health every time you use it. This can be buffed with Fresh Meat, Furious Charge, which can be taken over War Paint. and then Slaughterhouse as well, which will increase the healing and damage of your Bloodthirst whenever you use it on a target below 50% health. On top of all that, we have Recklessness, which just buffs our rage generation and makes it so we can press Rampage that much more. And again, every time you press Rampage, you're going to be enraged, which haste and damage is pretty much just what enrage means. There's lots of buttons to press at all times with Fury, and that's why I think I like it. I'd say the 1 through 5 on my bar I'm pressing on a regular basis. Bladestorm I'm just pressing on whenever cooldown. Usually, actually 1 through 8 I think I press pretty consistently throughout my rotation, most times in Battlegrounds or in Mythics. You do have really good self-healing like I mentioned before. Enraged Regen pretty much buffs the self-healing of your Bloodthirst. So along with crazy damage as Fury Warrior, we just have really good self-healing. One of the best self-healing abilities in the game I think is Enraged Regen. However, the duration of it's really low, which is only 8 seconds. The actual thing that it does is crazy. Reduces damage taken by 30%, and Bloodthirst restores an additional 20% health. An additional 20% health doesn't seem like a lot, but whenever you use this and then use Enraged Regen, you can get like pretty much your entire health bar back if you do just use Bloodthirst 2 times. And then, of course, Enraged Regen healing can be buffed with Furious Charge if you do take that, so pop Enraged Regen, charge someone, you'll just get like all of your health back instantly, which I've done in some of my PvP videos, but it was pretty far back, like 8.1, 8.0, so. But if you want evidence of that, then go for it. One of the underrated things about Fury, I think, is being able to clear snares and increase your movement speed. This is really broken against anything who's really relying on snares, such as Frost Mage. I find most of the time Frost Mages for a Fury Warrior, they don't just Frost Nova you and run away and just try to get slows off on you, you just chew them up like nothing. Another thing I'd like to mention is Death Wish. I haven't taken this ever since they made it so you take increased damage, but it used to just increase the damage you do. But now it increases damage taken, increases damage done by 5%, stacking up to 10 times. So you'll be doing 50% increased damage, but you'll be taking 50% increased damage. Good if you have a lot of pocket healers, not so good if it's just yourself, which is why I don't take it most of the times. We also have a somewhat larger health pool than most characters. I think that's just because of the 2 two-handers that we're allowed to have. And, on top of that, the 2 two-handers that you can have, if you do take really good two-handers, take the King's Rest two-handers, because it puts a just horrible bleed on the person, which just completely junks the guy, and then that bleed also heals you. So if you have 2 of these, it's just crazy. You just don't die as a Fury Warrior if you have those. But so in review, really good healing, kind of absurd self-healing, increased haste, increased damage, I'd say 70% of the time. And then on top of that, you're just a warrior, and I always feel like at the end of every expansion, warriors just outperform almost every other melee spec once they're top geared. So warrior's definitely number 2. So number 3 on the list is Red Paladin. I don't think there's much to explain about Red Paladin other than you just hit like a truck most of the times. 30, 40, 50k hits, pretty much regular part of your rotation. So, excluding the obvious, just being the really good damage that they have, you have decent self-healing. You can spam Flash of Light at a decent rate if you do take Selfless Healer. In arenas, I find myself usually healing teammates with this. On top of that, again, just Templar's Verdict crits. I like the fact that every time you pop wings, whether it be from your Honor Talent, Hammer of the Reckoning, or just normal pressing wings, your first Templar's Verdict will crit every time. Then, of course, when you use wings, you gain increased mastery. And then, increased mastery for Ret Paladin is just increased holy damage. So, in other words, similar to Fury Warrior, just increased damage whenever you use your holy abilities. So that's another reason I really like Ret Paladin. Adding on to the heal thing that I talked about previously, you do have a lot of utility. You have Shield of Vengeance, which I've used to pretty much just one-shot people. If there's only one person around you and they do the full damage of Shield of Vengeance and you use it on top of your Avenging Wrath, it'll chunk someone for about 150,000 crit, 100,000 non-crit. So that's something you should really look into if you're a Ret Paladin and you haven't tried to do that yet. Lay on Hands, it does what it does. It just heals you to full health. Not usable in arenas though. Bop usually gets spell stolen these days, but still pretty good if you know the mage just isn't going to spell steal it. And then obviously we have Bubble, the best ability in the game, 3.5 minute cooldown. And then the great thing about Bubble and being a Zandalari troll is I can have absolutely no health in a battlegrounds, use Divine Shield, use my Racial, and just have 100% health again. And then if I really want, I could extend that with Shield of Vengeance, Flash of Light, possibly Lay on Hands if I wait for Forbearance to lay off, but a lot of utility that can just come out of nowhere. I'd say one of the downfalls to Ret Pally is their vulnerability to slow effects. If you're not taking Unbound Freedom, which just makes it so your freedom can't be spell stolen and increases your movement speed. If you're not taking that, most of the time, if you try to get near a mage, or just anyone, they'll just do away with your freedom. Even on Divine Steed with no freedom, you're not going to reach them. So that's really one of the only downsides to Ret Paladin. We do have stun removal with Blessing of Sanctuary. Really good for arenas. Pretty much every Ret Pally is going to take this in arena. If you're going against the comp you can use this against. They also have a really fun town, and I think this is one of the most unique towns that they've kind of just put in the game. It replaces Avenging Wrath. Normally, Avenging Wrath would just increase your damage, crit, and healing by 20%, along with the automatic guaranteed crit. Crusade will replace this, instead give you 3% haste and damage, stacking up to 10 times every time you use Holy Power. So essentially, you can get a mini Bloodlust if you get 10 stacks of this, which usually doesn't take too long. So mini Bloodlust on top of 10% additional damage, increased from just regular wings. Really fun. Haven't tried it a lot because most people know if someone does take Crusade in arena to just run away from them so they can never get the stacks up. But something to look into if you play Ret Pally again and you just want to kind of run with just like a random just have fun build in Battlegrounds, then Crusade's something you should look into. Another thing, speaking of fun, again really unique to Ret Pally, Retribution. Pretty much when any party member dies, you gain 20% increase in damage, 30% reduced damage taken. Procs a lot in Battlegrounds. And again, this proc with Crusade, with Berserking, with Saltwater Potion, and with certain artifact traits, Azurite traits, whatever it's called these days, you can crit 100k easy. You can pretty much be a melee destruction warlock if people don't stun you. So number 4 on my list is Windwalker Monk. Let's talk about their offensive abilities first. First of all, you have Rising Sun Kick. Rising Sun Kick, it just does a lot of damage now, 72k crit. Second ability to talk about, Spinning Crane Kick. There's a certain artifact trait, Dance of Chai-Ji. Who knows. But it pretty much buffs your Spinning Crane Kick to do extra damage. And then if you do have 5 stacks of Spinning Crane Kick, use this in a battleground or just something where there's a lot of people heavily packed. It does absurd AoE damage. Probably the most AoE damage in the game, just for this short duration that the ability actually has. It's really crazy. But on top of that, Fist of Fury. Fist of Fury is kind of our other ability. Rising Sun Kick and Fist of Fury, I'd say, are our 2 main abilities. Fist of Fury does a ton of damage with a certain honor talent. It also reduces the reduces the movement speed of the target by 90%. And then it'll also parry all incoming attacks. So pretty much it's an ability that parries all incoming attacks, does a shit ton of damage, and then slows the person to an abysmal amount. So really, really fun here, and I'll show the Spinning Crane Kick off there. That's why I say it's kind of the most damage-abundant, short duration ability that does just crazy AoE damage, especially in Battlegrounds. And of course, if the whole team consists of cloth people, it's going to hit that much harder. But if it's a team full of Holy Pallies and Elemental Shamans, you're not going to do much. So on top of those abilities, you have Reverse Harm. Reverse Harm heals you for a certain amount and then does that damage. Also grants you Chi. Generally just really fun. I do like this edition a lot, so hats off to you, Blizzard, for introducing that ability. Alpha Tiger, I really like this ability. One of the best things about this ability is that you can use it on someone, and for some reason it's not proccing, probably because War Mode's not on, because I've been getting ganked a lot. But anyway, Alpha Tiger, if you use it on someone, you'll gain 30% haste. So my haste right now is about 20%. If I use this for 8 seconds, I'll have 50% haste. And again, 30% haste, it's the same buff as the Bloodlust. just for 8 seconds. But the really cool thing about this talent is that if you just use your Tiger Palm on someone else after that 8-second duration is up, you'll get the 8-second buff again. So as long as you're just running around pressing Tiger Palm on just different people, 4 different people mathematically, to have the buff just constantly refreshing, 4 different people just pressing Alpha Tiger for 50% increased haste is 30% increased haste, which grants me 50. That is one of the most fun mechanics. I'd heavily encourage Blizzard kind of introducing more abilities like this that introduce you or want you to hit someone else, or incentivize it somehow and grant your character a buff for that. Probably one of my favorite additions, and I think it was added in 8.2 or 8.1. I'm not sure, but again, Reverse Arm and Alpha Tiger probably some of my favorite honor talents in the game. On top of that, grapple weapon, it's just the disarm. Turbo Fist, which I've talked about already, it just makes it so you parry all attacks. Another really fun honor talent that I've seen people talk about and want me to take, but I've never actually taken personally, is Pressure Points. Essentially, it turns your Touch of Death, and your Touch of Death as Windwalker Monk is just a button that does really delayed damage. But it changes it to the point where it's just an execute, so if you use this on someone below 10% health, the target just dies instantly, and the cooldown's reset. I've seen lots of monks use this because you can tell, because it'll do the full person's health, but at 10%, it'll do their entire health pool, so a Windwalker will have just crazy, crazy damage and a lot of killing blows if they take this honor talent. Personally, I've never taken it, but I should probably try that out at some point. On top of that, we have the pretty much potential just one-shot stuff. If you are decently geared. I take Serenity. A lot of people bully me for taking Serenity. A lot of people take Storm, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Personally, I don't take it, but Storm, Earth, Wind, and Fire, it can do more damage if none of your elementals get CC'd, but when they do, your damage just plummets, so that's why I don't take it. But you do have the potential to just completely one-shot someone with Serenity / Storm, Earth, Wind, and Fire Burst and Touch of Death. Going on to our defensives, it's pretty obvious what we have. We have a teleport, we have the ability to just roll away from people. Say I have 2 people chasing me, I go outside, get them in this corner, teleport back in, and they're just that much farther away from me. Rolls, Flying Surf and Kick, AoE Stun, Dampen Harm, really good against Destruction Warlocks, also Fortifying Brew. Low-ish cooldown, 1.5 minutes, reduce damage taken, increased max health. Pretty good there. And then Ring of Peace. I don't take it just because personally I wouldn't feel right if I took Ring of Peace, but people who use this ability and use it well will tilt you, and it can change the game so fast, which is why I don't like the ability, but really good ability itself. Number 5 on the list might surprise a lot of you. It's Rogue. It's not Death Knight, it's not Enhancement Shaman, it's not whatever other melees are in the game. It's surprisingly Rogue. It's kind of grown on me in the last few patches. Just doing Arena on it, seeing how just good it is in Arena, and Battlegrounds too. And I've played Sub recently. I still don't like Outlaw. Outlaw is one of the only specs I just refuse to play it. But Sub and Assassination, both heavily improved over the duration of the expansion. If you've watched Peekaboo at all recently, you've seen that he mostly just plays Sub now, but I think that's just because of how well Sub scales into the late game with their mastery, but it CCs so much. You have cheap shots that are just spammable. You can sap people in combat essentially with Shadow Dance as long as the target's outside of combat. Blind, Smoke Bomb, weird new trinket that's essentially just like another shadowy duel on top of just normal shadowy duel for Sub. So you have like Blind, which is 10 seconds, 2 shadowy duels, which I think is 12 seconds. You have Kidney, Cheap Shot, which was just, let's say, another 10 seconds. And if you're playing with a mage, which I won't even get into, there's Polymorphs, Cyclones, Hodges, all that shit to add on top of it. So we're just kind of CC gods, on top of being heavily bursty, and have okay sustained damage. Okay sustained damage, but super heavy burst damage. I think that's what makes Rogue so good right now. One thing I'd like to add is healing. The healing reduction of wound poison as an assassination rogue is often underlooked. I underlooked it for a lot of the expansion, and I started using it 2v2 and 3v3, and it definitely slows down the healing a lot more than you think it would. So on top of that, Smoke Bomb, that's kind of it. Like, the thing about Rogue is the two specs are so similar. They feel different, because Assassination, it's damage over time playstyle, and Subtlety, it's just nuke them in a Shadow Dance playstyle, but the damage, the playstyle outside of just bursting when you need to burst and CCing isn't really that different. The only difference, I'd say, is Subtlety has more crowd control with Shadowy Duel, but Assassination only just has baseline, which is Blind, Possible, Vanish, Sap, Kidney, and then Smoke Bomb. So on top of the crowd control, we have Evasion and Crimson Vial for kind of self-sustained. Evasion, really good for warriors who are trying to enraged regen heal, or Death Knights who are trying to Death Strike heal, and you can just use Evasion and they won't be able to get a heal from it. Again, Crimson Vial, it's just your bring my health back ability. Almost every class has these now. I think it's 5% of your health every 1 second, yeah. And then on top of that, we have Elusiveness, which is usually taken from most rogues. It essentially reduces the damage you take by 30% for 5 seconds, which is just the duration of Feint. Used to be spammable, is no longer spammable. Good decision. I guess on top of that, we have Cloak of Shadows, Vanish, and Sprint. That's kind of it, though. So, like, say you're getting attacked by these guys and you just need to get away, you just kind of do this, and then you're gone. And then they'll probably never see you again in that arena until you pop out with another Garrote Silence or something like that. But yeah, that's my top 5 melee. I hope you guys liked it. I'll be doing a top 5 casters, tanks, healers for PvP, because I don't PvE. This is all directed towards PvP. Probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. Anyway, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, description, both. And check out Twitch, check out Twitter. Until next time, guys, take it easy.